want to be an assessor.
Hi, we're back for another podcast.
Welcome to our nondescript hotel room.
Yes, it's a hotel room. It has artwork that we don't have in our homes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How exciting.
Yes, always on the road. But anyway, so today, at this time, we are here to host the podcast. So you want to be an assessor. And my name is Mei Beth Shepherd. And
my name is Kaitlyn Reeder, and I am your other co-host. We were hoping to, get to learn slightly more about PTs. First question, what does the P and the T stand for?
Ooh, good question.
Right.
I've also heard it as PE.
Really?
Yes. I'm not sure what the E stands. PT stands for Proficiency Test. It's a test, literally, where a organization sends. You have to order and pay for them, of course, but they send you a blind sample. Not that the sample can't see, but that you don't know what's in the sample, but they do. So they know that they put a certain amount of whatever it is that you're looking for in the sample, and they send it to you, and it is a test of your system, a test of the proficiency of your system to identify the analytes.
So they get to send you an unknown, and they have the answer. Is that considered like a single blind?
No, I call that a double blind because the laboratory is blind to it and the analyst is blind to it. I call single blinds when someone in the laboratory makes a sample for an analyst that doesn't know what's in it. So it's just blind to the analyst.
Which is not a PT, but can be used as an initial demonstration of capability.
It can be used for that, yes.
Can PTs be used as initials?
No. Because you're not allowed to, it's a chicken and the egg thing. You're not allowed to report data until you have passed a PT or until you passed an IDOC, initial demonstration of capability. And a PT is data that has to be reported to get the results. And so therefore you can't report it because you don't have a DOC.
Got it.
It can work for later, for ongoing DOCs, which we really hadn't touched on too much, but it can't be used for an initial demonstration capability.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true.
But I was hoping to pick your brain on those PTs because we look at them.
We do look at the reports. Laboratories order PTs for all. There's a proficiency table of proficient. What is that called? NELAP has a list of all the analytes that can be have PTs run for them because they're not available for every analyte. They're available for a good number of them, most everything in the different matrices. So it's by matrix and by analyte. You have to define what it is. Method, matrix, analyte. So you have to get the sample. Let me back up a minute. You have to order the sample.
So make sure that it's out there.
Right. Make sure there's something available. Order it from a reliable proficiency test provider, because those words just roll off the tongue. PTPs, proficiency test providers. And order it for the methods that you want to be accredited in or are accredited in. Get the sample, analyze the sample by the method that you want accreditation in. And then once you've run the sample, you report it back to the PT provider. Yes. You report it back to them and they tell you how you did. And they tell you what the range of results were from all of the other people that they sent this same test to. So you see how you do in the average results, whether you were, it'll tell you what the exact number was that they thought they put in there. And then the range, I believe, is made based on what everybody else is reporting.
Mhm.
And so it's by method and matrix and analyte. And you assign it to an analyst. And
Yes.
get your results.
I agree. And then usually the PT provider will send those on not only to the laboratory so you can know if you're acceptable and all is good, you can continue running, or if you got a non-acceptable, and we'll talk about what to do with one of those pops up. But they also get to send them to the ABs.
Directly to the ABs. And that's, again, so that you can't cheat and say you passed one if you didn't. So the accreditation bodies, the ABs, expect the results from the proficiency test providers. The PTPs are supposed to send it. Now, you have to tell them who to send it to. So if you have more than one state that you are accredited by, and usually there's a primary accreditation and then there's a secondary accreditation, you would probably need to send those reports to, or tell the PT provider. I'm going to go with PTP.
Okay, PTP.
You tell the PTP who to send those reports to. So if you are using a third-party assessor company like A2LA or ANAB, PJ, and there's another one, IAS in California. But anyway, you could have the results sent to them. You could have the results sent to your state, and because they want to see the results from the PTP, not just from you. Some of the states also want you to send your copy of the report that you get. So what kinds of, so we talked about, that's just a general how to do PTs. What kinds of fun ways have you seen labs be creative in how they run their PTs?
Well, with the idea of these PTs, we understand that, it can be stressful because
it's a test.
It's a test, and people like to pass their test, and they like to guarantee that they pass their test.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite, most creative way is getting the QC sample from the provider and then running that with their PT.
That's true. So I call a QC sample from a provider, from a PTP, a single blind.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from the PT provider,
but they
send it with the results.
Mm-hmm.
They send it and say, I put 12 in here. You should get a number around 12 or whatever it is. And
sorry, computer doing its thing.
Yay, computer.
Yay.
And they often sell them. I don't know. Do they run a special or something that says, get your PT with a QC?
Honestly, the amount of times we see it, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, order your PT, get the QC, 50% off.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. But so the rules in the standard are run the PT samples the same way that you run regular samples. So again, the point of PTs is to prove that you can get the right result by running regular samples. So treat it like a normal sample. One of my funnest adventures in the PT world is when laboratories say, I am running it exactly like every other sample. I pour it, but I can't because it comes in and it's concentrated and they tell me that I have to dilute it or whatever. I'm like, well, sometimes you have to dilute samples too. So it's like, yes, but they tell me exactly what to do. I'm like, okay. So once you get it to exactly what they say, then treat it like every other sample. And they say, okay, I do. I put it on the auto sampler and run it. And I'm like, okay, great. Let me see your sequence from it. And so we see the sequence, and they've run that PT sample 4 times. They have run it with 2 LCSs. They have run it with 2 blanks. I mean, everything is run in duplicate. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. If you do that with every sample, you're going out of business, but whatever. So let me see your other sequences. So I come to the next sequence. Does not have a PT in it. It has 1 method blank, 1 LCS, 1 sample, and on it goes. And whatever. I'm like, you're not running it the same way? They said, yes, we are. It was in the exact same spot in the auto sampler as every other sample. Like, no. What we mean is run it the same way with the same kind of QC. You don't get to add extra QC. You don't get to add the QC from the PTP. You don't get to run last year's PT with it. And then it's even worse when we say, why do you do that? And the answer is, we want to get the right answer.
And they don't want to get the right answer for all of their clients?
I'd be offended if I was a client.
Me too.
Yeah. It's like, if it requires that you do all of this QC, etc., to get the right answer, there is something wrong with your system, because it shouldn't. It's just not the way it works. So, on a few rare occasions, a laboratory only runs that particular test when they have PT samples. Their salespeople thought they were going to sell it, and they are not selling it, so they don't get any samples. And so in that case, if there are no other samples to be run in that batch, you can then run a PT sample as a spike, as a matrix spike, and as a matrix spike dupe. If that method requires matrix spikes and matrix spike dupes, then that's what you would do. If you get a single sample in, you run it in matrix spike and matrix spike duplicate. But deciding to make a batch of PT sample and all the other samples I'll run in a batch tomorrow or this afternoon, that's not it. That's still not treating a PT sample the same as everybody else.
Right. I also tend, or have heard, this one I've never personally experienced, but I have heard other times where the analyst who runs the day-to-day stuff doesn't get to run the PT. Instead, they'll let their technical manager or whoever is senior run the PTs. And so it's not being done by your standard analyst who does everything else all day, every day. And that is also another form of treating it special.
Right.
In that, you kind of want it to be done by the person who's doing the work right then and there.
Yeah, treat it the same, but treat it the same way. How many times and ways can we say that?
Well, we keep saying it, and we keep seeing more and more creativity out in different laboratories. So as soon as people stop being creative
about that. Now, there was a news story that we included in one of our data integrity classes where a laboratory decided, you know what, we're not really good at this test, so we'll subcontract the sample. So they sent it to another lab, had the other lab run the sample, got the results back, reported the results as their PT, and passed.
Oh no.
You know, it explicitly says in the standard to not do these things. And you think, why did they put that? Nobody ever does that. Who would think to do that? But evidently it happens.
Evidently it happens. That's why they had to put it in the section. It's probably because one of us, someone in the assessor pool, caught it and decided, oh, I don't know how to write this, but it is wrong somehow.
Yeah, it's not running it the same way unless they subcontract all their samples, in which case silly clients should go to the subcontract lab.
It's true. They're getting their data anyway.
Yeah. So so yes, it does say you may not send it to somebody else. You cannot call your neighbor lab, your general. Yes, it's great to have good relationships with your neighbor labs, and all of the results should be the same for a particular PT test method matrix analyte. But no, you do not get to call the other labs and say, hey, what did you get on the nitrite? I'm working a nitrite sample right now. What did you get? It is not appropriate to run the sample via 5 different methods and average the results, because you could run nitrite on on an IC. You can run it colorimetrically, the titrametrically.
You can use the specific electrode.
Yeah, there's more than one way to run it, and you can report it by all of those methods if you want and have accreditation for all the methods. That's fine, but do not run it by one of the methods and report it under all the methods.
Yeah.
You have to run it by each of the methods. That's the deal.
Yeah. Funny we have to spell some of these things out.
It does seem crazy.
Just a bit.
So
those are the PTs that you can get. There are a few exceptions in cases where PTs don't exist, whether they are not stable enough to be able to be transported over great distances from, ERA, Finova, whoever else is a PT provider.
They can't count. Meaning Cryptosporidium giardia.
Oh.
There was somebody who could create those, but it required a special instrument to count how many Cryptosporidium and giardia they put into each sample.
Whoa.
And so the equipment is no longer supported, and so they didn't want to spend millions of dollars for another one. And I don't blame them. So, for instance, that PT is no longer available.
There's also some that degrade
over time,
and some degrade really rather quickly, and so therefore they can't make sure that everything stays the same throughout the entire PT period that they have the study open, and so those don't always end up with a test that's provided out there. And there are some ways that you can test yourself in those instances. Usually those are interlaboratory studies. So those who are all doing the same thing get together and try their best to get a similar sample and or at least a blank, and make sure that everything is running the same across the board.
Or they'll get a split sample. They'll take one sample and send it to 5 different labs. So interlaboratory, so that they can compare notes across several labs running a similar method. So.
Right, exactly. I think notably asbestos and air, those are ones that are always kind of iffy.
I am not aware of a PT program for air. You're right. There's
It's been a long time since I've done asbestos. I don't even have the training. I've been trying for years.
I know we're not official in
So,
asbestos, so
that's why I was
really
like,
don't
I
know.
feel like I remember at one point there was a PT, and then I think their provider ended up going the way of Crypto Giardia. But don't take my word for it. These are just
Yeah.
rumors.
The proficiency test, there is a table of what's available for proficiency testing on the TNI website. It is a list. It is a part of the proficiency test provider accreditors, PTPAs.
How many more acronyms can we fit into this?
I know, we're doing amazing. So there is a list of what proficiency test analytes and methods should be available.
Mm.
So that's out there.
So now that we've talked a bit about PTs and you passed them, how many do you do a year? Do you need to pass all of them all the time?
Right.
What do we do if we fail?
Good question. So if first off, how many do you have to do a year? Under the TNI world, that is 2 a year. There are rules about how much of a year you can use to do your 2. It's 6 months plus or minus a month, right? So it's 5 to 7 months. Is that how? If it's less than 5 months, it doesn't count as a second one that year. If it's more than 7 months, it counts as a missed PT, which means a failure on all analytes. That's not what you want to do.
You do not want to auto fail.
No, you should at least try. So you have to do 2. If you are in California using TNI -2 standard, which is the TNI, one of the things that is the -2, it's one of the 2.
Yep, one of those, they dropped 2 requirements from the TNI manual 2016. The 2 of them are, one of them, PTs. TNI says to do 2 per year. California says it's okay to do 1 if you're in that program. The second one being technical manager requirements, which is a whole episode in and of itself, but we don't want to get into here.
Right. That's the TNI -2.
Yeah, that's the TNI -2 that's special to California. I don't think I know of any other more stringent requirements than just the 2 per year. So that's a good rule of thumb.
So then if you fail 1, so the standard says that if you fail a PT, you must perform a corrective action. So that means use your corrective action system to determine why you failed a PT and what you're going to do to keep from failing future PTs. And that means that assessors often come in and are looking for your corrective action report for a failed PT analyte, method matrix analyte, and what you did about it. In my mind, opinion time. I have told laboratories that they could define in their corrective action process a failed PT process, corrective action process. Because 9 times out of 10, you do the same thing. You start by looking at how was the QC that day? How was everything, your CCVs, all of the QC that was run that day? Any other sample problems that day? Was the instrument okay? Were you, just kind of babying it along just to get this sample through?
Are the standards old or new? That can make a big difference depending on their life cycle, or some of them hold on a little bit longer than others. It could also just be a weird fluke, those things happen. The AC was being really odd that day, depending on what test you're doing, could have a huge flux in your numbers.
It could. I mean, but the standard first thing that you do is pretty much the same thing. So in my mind, if you have a corrective action process specific to PTs, then it's still part of your corrective action process. You need to document what you did. It's going to need the same requirements. What was the problem? What are potential fixes? What was the root cause of the problem? You figure out how it could have happened. Then figure out potential solutions. One of the solutions, and I don't know that it's a solution so much as a proof that this other fixes worked, is to run a rapid turn PT. But some labs use that as their solution. They just order another PT and run it and say, oh, well, I passed that. Obviously I'm good enough.
Yeah. And I will say, rule of thumb for us, as far as if you fail too many in a row, when is the danger? When is the cutoff from that method matrix analyte that you might lose it from your accreditation? It's if there are 2 failed PTs in a row. So or 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3
is what you get.
And
you don't want 3 strikes or it is out of your lab.
In California, it's a little bit different because they only had to run 1 a year. Mm-hmm. And so in California, you do have to run a rapid turn, or on your second failure, the analyte is considered off your list in California.
And I have good news about those rapid turns. In the most recent version, you are allowed to procure one of those 7 days.
Yes, after 7 days after the closing date of the previous
which is fantastic because we used to have to wait like a few weeks.
Yeah, it used to be 14 days minimum. And so if you're trying to get a new method matrix analyte on your scope, you can run your 2 PTs that are required more quickly. Mm-hmm. So you could run one, and then a week later you can run another one. If you're doing rapid turns, if it's part of the regular PT cycle, then those test periods are longer than a week. Mm-hmm.
So that is, I think, PTs in kind of a nutshell. Is there any of those questions that I didn't hit on? I mean, we talked what they are and how to set them up. Mm-hmm. We talked who should do it and all the creative ways you can mess that up. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about, what to do if you fail almost. Yeah. And ultimately, while we do look at them on site, most of the time your ABs are the ones keeping track of the 2 out of 3 requirement. So hopefully by the time we're there, you are already aware of it.
And if know what's going on. And yeah, most of the ABs that we work with, that's true, tell us whether there's a problem with the PTs, and their problem being there's been 1 failure out of the last 3, or there's been 2 failures out of the last 3, and so there need to be 2 rapid turns in a row in order to get back on. So those are the fun things.
Yeah. So a lot of times we're not, the end all be all in charge of that, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It was one less spreadsheet to maintain.
For us.
For us.
You as a lab get to maintain that. Yes. It's not always easy. And we did talk about how many you have to pass or pass to fail or whatever. You have to pass. It's a per analyte basis. Again, so if you're running 8260 or 8270 or any of the multi-analyte methods, you have to pass each analyte. Mm-hmm. And some of usually not everything is in there. Rarely is everything in there. And so if you say it's an ND, it's not there, when it's not there, you pass. That's a pass. If you say it's there when it's not there, that's a fail. If you say if it's there when it is there, then you have to be within the range of amounts. We didn't cover that before. Yeah. So, and for the multi-analyte, you can fail some, but without getting the method pulled from your scope.
So say silver acts up, but one of the other metals doesn't. I'm having
aluminum
is fine. Usually that one, it's like we pulled bad examples. Usually that one's actually, the troubled child, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Depending on your instrument, we all have our troubled children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And depending on the method and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah.
And then also double check with your AB about how to report, and do you report a result or multiple methods that are equivalent methods, versus completely different technologies, as we mentioned with nitrate.
Right.
For instance.
And, all the ABs are slightly different as far as
a little bit. They're closer, but they're not. Yeah. They're not 100%. So some will say that technology GCMS-MS is the same as GCMS, is the same as, but I think that the PT providers committees are saying, no, these are different technologies. One of these days, somebody, TNI wide, is going to define what technologies are. It's going to be great. We're all going to know what a technology is.
Oh boy.
We're not there yet.
No.
But just open a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, I think
we don't have time to talk about. We don't have time to talk about other cans of worms. So anyway, good luck on your proficiency tests. It is a pass-fail. Yes. Good luck. And you want to pass 2 out of 3, and you run 2 a year for the most part.
Absolutely. I think that sort of wraps things up. As always, if you liked this podcast, please like and subscribe. Yes. If you want to be notified anytime we post, there is a bell icon that you can hit in the corner. Please click it. It'll let you know anytime we have something new pop up. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment section down below. I think that's it. We don't have anything coming up anymore that I'm aware of, except for a holiday season is upon us. So naturally, I have to talk about today's sponsor. It's KatieKraftsTinyHats. It is not at all affiliated with me or my Etsy, but KatieKraftsTinyHats on Etsy, the sponsor of today's podcast. I'm definitely not me making crochet things.
But I hear you do little feet for chairs.
Yes,
for instance.
I do.
And crocheted lays.
I do. And I'll do a lot more than tiny hats nowadays. I'm foraying into big hats.
I saw a couple of those.
Yeah.
They were very cute. Very, very cute.
Thank you.
So I guess we should say goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and
see you next time.
Looking forward to hearing from you. Bye. Bye.